Hi guys, it's Mrs. Giles here, ready for our active read of The Enchanted Wood, Enid Blyton. And we're up to chapter 6, isn't that fantastic? Okay, so last week the children had a very exciting adventure to, can you remember what the place was called they went to at the top of the faraway tree? Yes, they went to Roundabout Land. It was all a little bit weird, wasn't it? And I was really worried they weren't going to get back. Thank goodness that those rabbits were able to save them and came up with that good idea. Well, guys, let's have a go at chapter 6 today. Okay, now chapter 6. I'm very excited about this chapter. It's a very interesting name. I can find it. Right. Chapter 6 looks like this. And it's called Moonface and the Slippery Slip. Okay, ready guys? Cool. The children clung to the top branches of the faraway tree, whilst the rabbit slid down a bit lower. They could still hear the enchanting music of the Roundabout Land as it swang round overhead. "We'd better get home," said Joe, in rather a quiet voice. "It's been just a bit too exciting." "Come on then," said Beth, beginning to climb down. It will be easier to get down than it was to climb up. But Franny was very tired. She began to cry as she clung to the branch. She was the youngest and not so strong as Joe and Beth. "I shall fall," she wept. "I know I shall fall." Joe and Beth looked at one another in alarm. This would never do. There was such a long way to fall. "Oh dear, Franny, you must simply try," said Joe gently. "We've got to get home safely." But Franny clung to her branch and wept great tears. The two rabbits looked at her most upset. One put its paw onto her hand. "I'll help you," he said. But Franny wouldn't be helped. She was tired out and afraid of everything now. She wept so loudly that two birds nearly flew off in fright. Just as the others were really in despair, that means a real worry, real like, what are we going to do? A small door flew open in the trunk of the tree not far below, and a round moon-like face looked out. A bit like my face as well. Got a big moon face. "Hey there! What's the matter?" shouted the moon-faced person. "A fellow can't get any sleep at all with all that awful noise going on." Franny stopped crying and looked at Moonface in surprise. "I'm crying because I'm frightened of climbing down the tree," she said. "I'm sorry I woke you up." Moonface beamed at her. "Have you got any toffee?" he asked. He liked chewy, sweet things to eat. Just like me. "Toffee?" said everyone in surprise. "What do you want toffee for?" "To eat, of course," said Moonface. "I just thought if you had any toffee to give me, I'd let you slide down my slippery slip. You get down to the bottom very quickly that way, you know." What do you think a slippery slip could be, children? Moonface's slippery slip. "A slide all the way down to the faraway tree?" cried Joe, hardly believing his eyes. "Good gracious! Whoever would have thought of that?" "I thought of it," said Moonface, beaming again like a full moon. "I let people use it if they pay me toffee." "Oh," said the three children, and looked at one another in dismay, for none of them had any toffee. Then Joe shook his head. "We've no toffee," he said, "but I've a bar of chocolate. A bit squishy, but quite nice." "Won't do," said Moonface. "I don't like chocolate. What about the rabbits? Haven't they got any toffee either?" The rabbits turned out their pockets. They had a very curious collection of things, but no toffee. "Sorry," said Moonface, and slammed his door shut. Franny began to cry again. Joe climbed down to the door and banged on it. "Hey, old Moonface!" he shouted. "I'll bring you some lovely homemade toffee next time I'm up the tree, if you let us use your slippery slip." The door flew open again, and Moonface beamed out. "Why didn't you say so before?" he asked. "Come in." One by one, the rabbits and the children climbed down to the door and went in. Moonface's house in the tree was very peculiar. It was one round room, and in the middle of it was the beginning of the slippery slip that ran down the whole trunk of the tree, winding round and round like a spiral staircase. Round the top of the slide was a curved bed, a curved table, and 2 curved chairs, made to fit the roundness of the tree trunk. The children were astonished, and wished they had time to stay for a while, but Moonface pushed them towards the slide. "You want a cushion each?" he said. "Hey you, rabbit! Take the top one and go first." One of the rabbits took an orange cushion and set it at the top of the slide. He sat down on it, looking a little bit nervous. "Go on, hurry up," said Moonface. "You don't want to stay all night, do you?" He gave the rabbit a hard push, and the rabbit slid down the slippery slip at a tremendous pace, his whiskers and ears blown backwards. Joe thought it looked like a lovely thing to do. He went next. He took a blue cushion, sat on it at the top of the slide, and pushed off. Down he went on his cushion, his hair streaming backwards. Round and round and round went the slippery slip inside the enormous trunk of the old tree. It was quite dark and silent, and lasted a very long time, for the faraway tree was tremendously tall. Joe enjoyed every second. When he came to the bottom, his feet touched a sort of trap door in the trunk at the foot of the tree, and the trap flew open. Joe shot out and landed on a big tuft of green moss, which was grown there to make a soft landing place. He sat there, out of breath. Then he got up quickly, for he didn't want Beth or Franny landing on top of him. Beth went next. She flew down on a fat pink cushion, gasping for breath, for she went so fast. Then Franny went on a green cushion, and then the other rabbit. One by one they shot out of the little trapdoor, which closed itself tightly as soon as the slider had gone through. They all sat on the ground, getting their breath and laughing, for it really was funny to shoot down inside a tree on a cushion. The rabbits stood up first. "We'd better be going," they said. "So pleased to have met you." They disappeared down the nearest burrow, and the children waved goodbye. "So pleased to have met you." Then Joe stood up. "Come on," he said. "We really must get home. Goodness knows what the time is." "Oh, what a lovely way of getting down the faraway tree that was," said Beth, jumping to her feet. "It was so quick." "I loved it," said Franny. "I'd like to climb up the tree every single day, just so that I could slide down that super slippery slip." "But what do we do with the cushions?" At that moment, a red squirrel, dressed in an old jumper, came out of a hole in the trunk. "Cushions, please," he said. The children gathered them up and handed them to the squirrel one by one. They were getting quite used to hearing animals talk to them now. "Are you going to carry all of these cushions up the tree to Moonface?" said Franny in wonder. The squirrel laughed. "Of course not," he said. "Moonface lets down a rope for them. Look, here it comes." A rope came slipping down between the branches. The squirrel caught the end of it and tied the bundle of cushions firmly onto the rope. He gave 3 tugs, and the rope swung upwards again, taking the cushions with it. "Good idea," said Joe, and they all turned to go home, thinking, as they walked, of the strange and exciting things that had happened that day. They came to the ditch and jumped across. They went down the little lane and through their little back gate. By the time they reached the cottage, they were ready to drop with tiredness. Their mother was still busy in the garden, and their father was not yet home. So, sleepily, Beth made them all some hot milk, which they took up to their rooms to drink while sitting in bed. "I'm not going up the faraway tree again," said Franny, lying down. "Well, I am," said Joe. "Don't forget, we promised old Moonface some homemade toffee. We can climb up to his house, give him the toffee, and slide down that slippery slip again. We don't need to go into any land at the top of the tree." But Beth and Franny were both fast asleep. And very soon Joe was too, dreaming of the strange faraway tree and the curious folk who lived in its enormous trunk. What an exciting day they had. What an exciting adventure getting back down. Right, so guys, I would love to go on a slippery slip. Would you? It sounds amazing. Hanging right down through a tree. Now I've got some questions on chapter 6. Okay. I will read them to you, then I'll hold it up for you, and I will also post them so you can see them. Alright, and there is a drawing challenge again today, and I think you'll really like this one. Okay, so chapter 6, Moonface and the Slippery Slip. Question 1. Why does Franny begin to cry as she clung to the branch at the top of the faraway tree? Question 2. What do you think Moonface's slippery slip might be? Question 3. What made Moonface's house in the tree very peculiar? Question 4. Why do you think the rabbit was looking a little nervous when he sat at the top of the slide? Question 5. They all sat on the ground, getting their breath and laughing. Why were they laughing? Question 6. At the end of chapter 6, what were the children quite used to? And your drawing challenge this week is, I would like you to have a go at drawing Moonface. What do you think he will look like? I know I showed you a picture of what Enid Blyton thought he might look like, but can you have a go of drawing him? I'd love to see some of your pictures of Moonface. I think I might have a go at drawing one too. I hope you've enjoyed that, children. I can't wait to read you chapter 7 next week. Take care, guys. Bye!